Okay, welcome back to the Remember When podcast. We have the privilege today of being joined by the great Trent Hodkinson. Trent, thanks for joining us.
No worries,
Um,
mate.
just to start off, just what's been going on with you? What are you doing with yourself now? Just after footy.
Mate, I obviously been a few years now since I retired, and I jumped back on the tools and finished my trade for a little bit. So I did about 3 years before footy, and then I had a year left, so I got back on the tools, mate, and put that behind me, and then moved to Queensland, moved to enemy territory,
Oh yeah,
and then I've actually I work full time for the Dolphins up in the Rockhampton region, doing some game development, coach education. So it gets me back involved in footy,
yeah.
and then I'm assistant coach with the Host Plus Cup Capras up there. So that gets me around it, and then just still doing some NRL work. So I'm currently out at Wagga Wagga, just
Oh
doing
really?
some ambassador work for the NRL. We go around to schools and talk about good mental health and stuff. So yeah, keeps me
Yeah,
busy, mate.
yeah. That's sounds like a pretty busy schedule. So,
Yeah.
yeah. With the Dolphins, what exactly are you doing there?
Mate, so I'm just pretty much helping out the junior reps up there. I'm helping out all the schools, all the club footy up there. So basically, all the footy up there. That's the region that the Dolphins sort of look up to. Look after now. So the Capras are a feeder club to the Dolphins up in central Queensland. So
Yeah,
mate, that's my role, game development and helping out the coaches in the region, just giving them some education around things because it's really important in regional areas that the coaches can get looked after and well educated as well. So, mate,
yeah.
it keeps me busy, and I enjoy being back around footy, so it's good.
Yeah, 100%. They had a pretty good year. This year the Dolphins, they were unlucky just to miss the finals, but second year in the NRL they're going pretty well.
Yeah, mate, it was. It was obviously the first year.
So yeah, that just cut out. All good.
You're
Oh,
right.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just cutting out a bit.
nuts.
Um, can you hear
Yeah, I
me?
got you, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good now.
No,
All good.
no.
Yeah,
So basically, what happened was, the Dolphins just struggled with a bit of depth last year, but this year they had better depth, and there was a couple of games pushing back into the year where they lost by a field goal or a couple of points here and there. So,
yeah,
mate, disappointing finish for them, but second year in and they're pushing for the finals is pretty good. But I'm sure they'll be better for it next year. And although with Wayne moving on, they got Wolfie taking charge, and he's from what I've heard, I've never been coached by him, but I've met Wolfie, and yeah, he's a really good coach by all means, and looking forward to seeing how he goes.
yeah. And it'd be good yourself being a half, seeing young Katoa do really well. That he's a real one to look for it in the future.
Mate, he is, yeah. Young Isaiah, he's very mature for his age, and he's got an old head on young shoulders, and you can just tell by the way he plays. And I just love how direct he plays. And when you see those young guys coming through the grades, they tend to play a little bit sideways and try and go round teams, but he plays nice and direct. And usually, you see guys that are older and more mature in that position starting to implement that in their game, but he's done it from a young age, and yeah, he's pretty handy player, and they Dolphins can build
Yeah.
around him moving forward. So, yeah, they've got a pretty healthy spine there for the future.
Yeah, 100% hammer there as well. And Marshall King's really coming to his own as well this
Yeah,
year.
he has.
He's a
Yeah, Marshall King was at the Dogs, and he was a solid player at the Dogs, but he's really taken his game to a new level this year at the Dolphins, and um, yeah, it's pleasing to see. And like you said, how important the spine is to a team, but especially a hooker, just to
yeah,
relieve a lot of pressure off the half and Isaiah because they can just look after the forwards and roll them through the middle, and that's one less thing that the half has to think about at the time.
yeah, 100%. Well, I wanted to get a bit more into your career. So, or just start with you growing
Hmm.
up. So, did you start Well, first of all, where'd you grow up and how did you get into footy?
Mate, so I grew up out at Campbelltown, so southwest Sydney.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
born out in Campbelltown. Did my junior footy out there at Eaglevale St Andrews. In my side was Chrissy Lawrence. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Will Mataka, he played in a couple of, he played a little bit of first grade as well. So, um, yeah, out there and did my juniors through there. Went to school out there before I was about 13 when I went to high school. Then went over to Westfields with a couple of boys, and at the same time, I made the transition over to the Parramatta Junior comp, and I went over to
Yeah.
Cabramatta and played all my juniors there. So went through the ranks there in your Harold Matts and SG Ball and Jersey Flegg. So yeah, did all my junior footy through there, and we had a pretty decent side. T Rex, Chris Keating, Jared
Oh
Hayne.
yeah.
We had Timmy Manor in the same para side, so we had a pretty strong comp out there. If we weren't versing each other, we're playing together in on the paras in the rep stuff. So mate, that's where I did all my junior footy, and I grew up out in Campbelltown first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty interesting coming from para to obviously ended up playing at the Dogs. We'll get into that
Yep.
a bit later. But at what point were you like footy's like I'm pretty fucking good at footy. This is I can really have a go at this.
Um. Oh, it wasn't. To be honest with you, it wasn't till probably later. Like when you start making hard mats and SG ball and stuff like that, because even during high school on the early years, I didn't really make those rep sides and stuff. Like a lot of others did. Your New South Wales CHS and your Australian schoolboys and stuff. I didn't make any of those. So, mate, I just kept chipping away, and it wasn't probably until I was about 16, SG ball age, where I you start to get interest from managers, and you start to get interest from clubs, and start getting contracts and things like that. Where I probably thought that it was a thing that I could do full time, but like I always enjoyed my footy and back myself at a young age, but it didn't get real until your SG ball ages and whatnot when I was at Para. So um, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So you make your debut for Manly. How did that work going from para to Manly? Did Manly just promise first grade or was
Mate,
it just was there any reason for the change or just cause?
no, to be honest with you, I was working at the time when I was playing SG ball and Jersey Flegg and that, so I was doing my apprenticeship at the same time, so I'd train all day and go to training of an evening, and then the under 20s competition come into um, the mix of things in 2008. So that was the first year of the 20s, and that was, I think I was 18 at the time. So I was pretty keen to play 20s at Para, and then I did my knee in the first trial match. First 10 minutes, I wasn't supposed to play, and I was filling in for a couple of other injured halves, and I did my knee, so that put me on the back burner a bit, and then I came back, played one game before the finals, so I only got two games in that season. And then flowing off that, I was off contract at Para. There was no opportunity for me to go full time at Para. They had, their halves. Timmy Smith was playing good footy. I think he might have come off his rookie year and killed it. Brett Finch was there. He was, established first grader. And then, um, Jimmy Maloney was playing Premier League as well. So I was in the 20s. He
Oh
was in the
really?
Premier League. But Jimmy and myself left at the same time because I think there was opportunities elsewhere. So he went to Melbourne, and I went over to Manly. I was top 25 there, and the opportunity to do full time and stop, working on the tools. That was my dream of playing footy full time. So I took the opportunity, and they showed a lot of faith in. I'd just done my knee and ACL at a young age, at 18. So they showed a bit of faith there, and um, yeah, offered me full time. So I was pretty keen on doing that.
Yeah, so you make your debut for Manly in 2010 and it's against Para. Did you have a like a welcome to the NRL moment or anything? Did anyone spray or anything?
It wasn't really a spray man, but during the week, like what happened was Desi brought me into his office, and he told me I was making my debut. But when he told me, he went to grab me and bring me in close, like he does. But as he grabbed me, man, he slapped my ear and um, accidentally, of course, but I went deaf straight away.
Oh,
And he goes, and he's like, "Oh, you're making your debut this week, mate." And I was like, "I can't hear you, man. You just burst me eardrum or something." Um, so that was pretty cool. And he's just like, "Just keep it hush, you know. Tell your family, obviously your mum and dad and your missus and stuff, but just keep it pretty hush because we'll name you as 18th man, but we'll start you." Anyway, a day or two later, I got a message. It's funny, man. There's always a leak in every club because Timmy Mena messaged me from Para. He goes, "Oh, I heard you're playing this week." I just didn't write back to him, mate. I just brushed it. And then as soon as I ran out, he was at the front and we're kicking off, and he was at the front of the receiving side. And he just looked at me and smiled, and I just give him a wink. And yeah, he sort of knew that I was playing, but I didn't want to say anything. So, but it was pretty crazy how, you know, you think about it. Did all my juniors and stuff at Para, and then to debut against them at Para Stadium when it was the old stadium as well. Spent a lot of times there. It was
Yeah.
pretty surreal, man. It was pretty cool. Good moment,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, it would have been cool. You guys went down, I think, but you scored a try, didn't you?
Yeah, I scored. I was lucky enough to score a try, man. I think it was like the
Yeah.
second touch or something, and I was thinking, "How easy is this, man?" I love
Yeah,
first
man,
grade.
I feel like that always happens. Like P1 debut, that it's like your safest bet. Put someone on debut for a try.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird how it works. Hey, I
Yeah.
think my first touch was obviously kick for touch, and then got the tap and tipped on. But then my second proper touch was Stevie Maddow. I was just skipping across the field, and I just found myself in some space and hit a hole, and he tipped it on, and that's when I
Yeah.
had a bit of pace back then, so I was able to get to the line.
Yeah. How'd that first season go for you? What was that like? Obviously coming from being a tradie and working every day to living your dream pretty much. How was that?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was good, man. It was cool. Obviously, I had a good crew there. You know, Jason King, Brent Kite, Josh Perry. You know, the Stewart boys, Jamie Lyons, Stevie Maddow, Watmow. Like pretty good side. Michael Robinson on the wing, Shane Rodney, Joe Nullivow, T
Yeah.
Rex. Like I had an
Yeah.
older crew there, so it was good for a half to come in and learn his trade under some experienced guys because. You know, it's a bit daunting, young fella coming in. They just won the comp 2 years before, so
Yeah.
you know, Matty Orford obviously went overseas, and that's how I slotted in. But yeah, it was good. It was a good experience. Desi's good with his halves. He makes sure you're ready before you go into grade, and he leaves no stone unturned. So for me, as a young half, it was awesome coming under Desi, um, and then yeah, the older crew just looked after me. But I learned a lot from him as well, you know. So
Yeah.
it
100%.
was difficult, but it was cool. It was a good group of lads to come into first grade with, and then the season went all right. You know, we made the finals. I think we got knocked out in the first week of the finals to the Dragons, who ended up going on and winning the
Yeah.
competition. But they were just on another level that year. Everything they sort of did turned to gold. They had Boydie out the back, was just he'd sum up those 3-on-2s like you know, to
Yeah.
perfection. Ben Hornby was just running direct lines with Benny Cray leading, so they had that block play under.
Yeah.
Um, you know, really good. So, yeah, no, it was a successful year, and it was a good one for me as a rookie year. So that was my second year at Manly. Obviously, the first year I played in the Queensland Cup for Sunny Coast because that was their feeder club, and we're lucky enough to win the comp there.
Oh,
So then
really?
my second year at Manly was when I played grade. So I only had a 2-year contract there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty successful debut season. And then 2011, you move to, I feel like the club everyone associates you most with, the Doggies.
Mm.
How did that come about?
Yeah. So also in that debut season, man, after 6 or 7 games, I was lucky enough to represent City too when they had the City Country. So when my name got tossed up for that, man, I was pretty blown away. Hey,
Yeah,
so I got an opportunity to do that at a young age, early in my career, and again with experienced guys around you, I was just learning just like a sponge. So that was pretty cool, my debut year. But yeah, just floating over to the Dogs, mate. Brett Kamali had his last year in 10. Sorry, yeah, 10. And the Dogs approached me. Obviously, Manly was great. I wanted to stay at Manly. I found a home there. Um, but the Dogs come on board, and me having sort of an injury like I did at 18, I realised how important um, just having those years on contracts are,
Yeah,
and
just that
it's
safety.
just yeah, safety and that stability. So the Dogs come with a 3-year contract. Manly just wanted to continue with two, and I liked what Dogs had to say. Although I was leaving Des, who gave me the start. Yeah, little did I know he was gonna come over
And
and
yeah,
end up at the Dogs a year later. But yeah, it was just a decision. It was a hard decision, mate. But they were better for it. I always say to people they got rid of the dead wood and they won the comp the next year. So Manly won out, and obviously Ches come through. He's been a tremendous player. So yeah, I went over to Dogs, man, and sort of found a home there and saw a good opportunity. I liked what they said about being the family club and stuff, and they sold it pretty well, and yeah, just shot over there, mate. But the main reason was probably that stability and that safety net of that extra year,
yeah, 100%. Well, I'm not too sure. The Dogs went pretty well in 2011. Did you guys went pretty well? Yeah. How was?
Yeah, it was I think we were that was a year sort of Kevy got moved on and Jimmy Dimmick took over, so it was a bit of a transitional sort of year. We had a decent season, but I think we might have we were playing to get in the finals that last round, and I don't think we made it. But yeah, it was just sort of a weird transition, like season with the coaching and that, and sorting out, and that's why obviously we had a new coach the following year.
Yeah, but 2012 was that was a good year for the Dogs. Obviously, Benny Barber, he was magic that year.
Yeah,
How was that for you that season?
man, it was a tough one for me because I played the first 4 games and then I got injured, um, and we started off pretty well, and then yeah, I got injured in round 4, I believe, against Newcastle. So I did my knee. I sort of did my other knee, my medial. It held me on the sidelines for about 10 weeks, and then I come back through Reggie's because Desi, obviously the team was going unreal and didn't want to change a winning team, which is understandable. And I needed to get my confidence and fitness back in Reggie's. So I I come back in Reggie's, and my first game back in Reggie's, man, I tore my tendon in my shoulder. So that
Oh,
was
really?
that was a damper and things. And they said to me that I'd get surgery at the end of the year, just strap it up for the rest of the season because they knew how much I just wanted to play footy because I'd spent a bit of time on the sidelines. And literally the next week, man, I've dislocated the other shoulder. So they called it a season, and I got surgery 6 weeks apart. I was in a sling, got out of it, pretty much got another surgery on the other one. It was a tough year, man. I was going to give it away and get back on the tools, and I'd had
Oh,
enough.
really?
That was the same year, sort of. Benji was this like his shoulders were popping out too, I believe, after his injuries, and I was just like, oh, if it's happening to him, I'm going to struggle being a half, having to defend and getting big fellas running at me. So I didn't really see too much light at the end of the tunnel that year, but I got through it and was able to push through, man, and had some good people around me. But yeah, 12 was sort of a write off. But in saying that, man, the boys, how well they went, it kept me going. It was a
Mate,
good time to be around the club, good vibe, and mate, they had a great year. Obviously, went to the final, and the Storm were too good for him on the day. But Benny Barber that season, he was just unstoppable, man.
yeah. Mate, to be honest, that Storm team, that it's just an unreal team. Most teams, like that's probably one of the toughest teams to come up against in a grand final.
Mm,
With like Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith, all them. So
yeah,
it's pretty good to even make it there. Probably any other year, doggies are winning it.
yeah. It was just what the Storm were like, mate. They do their homework and they make sure that they nail everything, every little um, bits and pieces on the field, and they did that day. And that's what finals are like. It's best team on the day, no matter what your season went like.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm sure the boys would have liked that
yeah,
game again. But it is what it is, man. You can't write off the big three, eh?
yeah. This is not really that related to what we're talking about, but I just want to ask you, who do you reckon is better, that prime Storm team or the Penrith team now?
Mm. As in the Melbourne side then, or the Penrith side now?
Like, as in not that side, that prime Storm team where it was like they had the big three, they had Inglis in there as
Yeah,
well. Um,
yeah.
compared to the Penrith team now.
Man, do you know what? It's hard to argue against the Penrith side. Hey, like they've proved and that they've won three in a row. They're consistent. It's a very very tough debate, but I'm probably going to have to say I don't know. Oh, I'm going to have to say Penrith, man. I think what they've been able to
Yeah,
achieve, and they've had players move on, and people have just jumped in like they do at the Storm. Don't get me wrong, but the dominance of Penrith, four grand finals in the last 4 years, but they've won three. They obviously lost to Melbourne, but hard to go past Penrith at the
yeah,
moment, eh?
yeah, mate. I was at that grand final last year, and that was just my dad's a Penrith supporter, so I was like giving a bit of like go the Broncos. But
Yeah.
then when Cleary just turned it on, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, in 20 minutes, man, he turned the game on his head. Like um, he did the 40-20, and then he come up with some big plays. He scored a try, or he set up a try, sorry, and just was busy around the ball.
Yeah, it was
And then
everywhere.
come up with that try at the end of the game, man. That was just incredible. One of the best, little bits of footy in a 20-minute period I've seen. I thought Jack Cogger was a big help to him. I think Luai went off and then Cogs come on,
Yeah,
man, and Cogs really straightened his attack and it sort of pushed Cleary a bit wider and opened up the space for him. So I reckon Cogs helped change that game,
yeah,
which was good. Big for Jack, and then yeah, it was tough because you thought Penrith had it, man. But what Cleary was able to do, that'd go down. It was one of the great grand final performances, and he only needed 20 minutes to do it.
yeah. Yeah, even in that game, I thought Crichton was really underrated. He came up with a few massive plays who
Yeah,
that didn't get spoken about as much, but mate, what he's doing at the Dogs now, he's he's really turning that team around. That whole club, they'll be up there in the next couple of years.
absolutely, man. The culture he's brought to the Dogs from Penrith, although the culture was good, but that winning culture that the Panthers have had for so long. Um, and I was probably one to say that, when Critter was sort of whatever his asking price was, or him being captaincy from the centres, I was like, oh, do you want someone closer to the footy? Like, but man, he's proved a lot of people wrong, and he's just going gangbusters out there. He just goes to show what type of impact he has on all the boys and the respect he has from them. But man, it's good to see the Dogs turning the page and back up in the finals footy, Because yeah, that's when the Dogs are going well and it's the NRL's doing well, I believe, because the
Yeah.
fans just get right behind them, man, and it's good to see.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these clubs that aren't going as well or haven't been going as well the last few years are starting to go a bit better now, and the fans just love it. Like clubs like the Dogs, clubs like Manly, even like Penrith. Even I know it's been like 4 years, but before then they weren't going too well, and just the atmosphere around the game now because those fans just absolutely froth it.
They do, man. They're another level, and they actually get out there and travel and go to the games, which is what you want, the
Yeah,
atmosphere. So yeah, it's obviously the Dogs fans. It was extra special. They hadn't been in the finals for a long time, but mate, they'll do that consistently if they can. The fans, if they're up there like that every year.
yeah, 100%. I wanted to talk about 2014. So in 2014, you made the captain of the side. You play for New South Wales, which you'll get into after, and you make the grand final. So what was that year like for you?
Man, that was a good year. It was finally the first year where I didn't have off-season surgery the year before, so I had a full pre-season, which makes a massive difference, not only physically but mentally. And then, yeah, I was just keen to get back stuck in the footy on a consistent basis, and um, it was a good year, man. We started off really well, leading into Origin and stuff. We're up the top of the table, and we just were working really good with our combinations. Myself and Joshy Reynolds in the halves, and our forwards were going really good, and we had some strong outside backs. And our centres, J Moz, Joshy Morris, and Timmy Laffwell, were unbelievable. So we had a really good mix, man. Really good bunch of guys there working hard for each other, and a few of us got rewarded by going into Origin, which was nice. And yeah, got to experience State of Origin that season, which was cool.
Yeah.
Um,
How is that? Because obviously Queensland have won 8 straight, and you come
yeah,
in. What was the feeling like around after getting selected and getting to camp, knowing that there's this like the best Queensland side of all time in front of you? What was the
yep.
feeling around that like?
Yeah, it was obviously getting chosen, mate. I didn't really expect to get chosen. I thought, Mitchell being there from a young age, and to be fair, he'd been doing really well. He was coming up against a hard team every year, so I thought he was really hard done by. And they were playing good footy. Him and James Maloney, who were there the year before, they won the comp, I believe, in 13, and um, I just thought they were going to be the halves again, and you know, um, luckily for myself and Josh, Loz was keen to go another direction, and he was big on combinations, Loz, so that's why we were both chosen. But when I was first going into camp, mate, it was pretty. Didn't really have much time to think about it. I got told the night before, packed my bags, and went in and met all the boys. It was a little bit surreal and daunting going into an Origin arena with the best of the best. But mate, as soon as I got in there, all the boys made me feel really comfortable. There's a big media day first. Obviously, fresh meat as I was, so I got hammered by the media, and there was a good camp, man, because we went up to Coffs Harbour. We got out of Sydney and we just bunkered down as a crew. So, there was good vibes, mate. We obviously knew what we were coming up to, and myself up against, sorry, and myself, you know, being new to Origin and going up against a team like Queensland. But I was pretty keen. I didn't really, to be fair, didn't really feel too much pressure. Obviously, I was nervous and stuff, but myself and Joshy Reynolds, we just said to each other, let's just enjoy it. And we've got a good opportunity here. We've got nothing to lose. Let's just go have a crack and do our best for this team and help in any way. My role for that Loz told me was just to go out there, be calm in the chaos. I was pretty casual sort of guy when I was out there, so um, I just had to kick the corners and defend well, and then just steer the boys around, mate. And that's how simple Origin is at times. It's not the flary plays, eh? It's just the grind, and who can do that best is stay in that grind and build that pressure. So I just had to help out in any way I can, but mate, the entire team in both games. Obviously, the third game they got us a fair bit, but we'd won the series in those first two, so you could say. Um, it was obviously over by that stage, but mate, it was such a good team effort, man. Coming off that field in game one and game two, looking around and everyone's busted and iced and getting needles and stitches and all that sort of stuff. We were just out on our haunches, and we needed to be against Queensland because they just keep coming. And to go up in game one against them in Suncorp was a big effort. It was the 100th Origin game. They had a big Arthur Beetson
Yeah.
memorial or tribute, and everything was against us in the cauldron. So for us to come away 12-8, and it was really backed by our defence. We had a saying, the blue wall, and we really, you know, bonded together and did our best, man. So, and then we went back to Sydney and got the job done at home. Another tough game, low scoring game. Only one try scored, and just one of those grinds, man. Like Origin's about. It was an awesome
Yeah.
experience and one that I won't forget. To be a part of that team was cool, very
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. I want to talk about that try. So in 2014, I was only 10 years old, so I'd never seen New South Wales
Yep.
win an Origin series. Um, when you scored that try, I cried because I'd never seen.
I don't think you're
And
the only one, man, to be honest with you.
nah, it was. And then you kicked the goal as well. What was going through your head when you were lining up that ball to kick the goal?
Yeah, so to be fair, to be honest with you, I get this question asked a lot. Like, how did it feel to kick that conversion? It was in that spot where you're expected to get it, but you can easily miss it if your head's not there because it's in the middle of the field. Um, but it's the only kick I've ever kicked where I knew that the footy was going over. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that ball was going over. But I think it was because I scored the try and the adrenaline was going. Like, I was just buzzing off that. If somebody else had scored the try and then, you know, I had to then line up the kick. It probably would have been a different feel, but mate, that kick was never missing. It was yeah, it was a good feeling after the try, just buzzing, and then I just had to zone in. I didn't really. I'd love to go back and enjoy it and look around and take all the atmosphere in and experience it a bit better. But mate, it all happened so fast, and then yeah, kicked the goal, and we had to hang on for about 9 minutes and keep them out because we knew that they were going to come right to the death as Queensland do. Uh, but it was yeah, it's definitely a question I get all the time. But mate, I was the confidence I've ever kicked a conversion there for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was like probably one of I still go back and watch that moment, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
cool,
yeah,
man.
yeah, and then going into 2016, you signed with the Knights. What was the process there? Was it just you needed to move, or were the Knights offering more security, or
Nah, mate, I got pushed out of the Dogs. To be honest with you, there was young Moses and was coming through, and they had big raps on Moses, and then obviously Josh Reynolds was there as well, and unfortunately three can't fit into two. Um, so I was off contract, and I was the one that sort of had to part ways for it, mate. So I wanted to stay. I was keen to stay. Desi wanted me there. It was just the board's decision that they wanted to give young Moses a crack, and that's cool, man. That's all good. Like he was a good young player coming through, and then I had to sort of find a new home, to be honest with you. So I had a couple of options there, mate. But at the time, I thought Newey was the better one. I looked at their lineup and they had a decent roster. Hey, so I just experienced roster too. A lot of representative players, but so I wanted to go up there and get amongst it, mate. And then I sort of got up there, and when I signed later that year, Rick Stone had been sacked because they didn't really have a good season that in the 15 season. Uh, so then I was going into it with a new coach, and then he's come in and cleaned the roster out. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, mate. But I obviously committed to Knights and went up there, and yeah, that was the decision based around that. Yeah.
yeah? So obviously from like around that 2016 to 2019 period, it's um obviously the results aren't really going your way, and yeah, at one point
Mm.
you got dropped to Rezzies, right? Because you kind of like obviously someone had to take the fall, and I guess you were just the one that got picked in a way. What was that?
Mm.
What was that experience like?
Up at the Knights,
Yeah,
yeah, it was a tough one, man, because obviously going up there and then the clean out of the roster, a rebuilding phase, a lot of young guys coming through. So it was a tricky period, mate. It was probably a rebuilding phase and a period, transition period. So yeah, it was a tough one, mate. You don't want to go and lose games, but it just where we were at as a club. Obviously, trying my best and with what we had up there and what we were able to do. But like I said, mate, tricky couple of years, and then obviously they started to recruit really well after that and build a team. And it would have been nice to be part of that once I went through those tough periods at the Knights. But again, just obviously wasn't in the plans moving forward, and then just sort of yeah. I mean, things were tough, and I got yeah. It's a tricky one, mate. It's a hard one. I don't regret going up there, but I would have liked certain situations to work out differently. And but at the end of the day, it is what it
yeah,
is. I wouldn't change it. I really enjoyed living up in Newcastle, meeting the boys, and the fans are awesome. They get behind the team, which is cool. And but it just ended the way it did, unfortunately. So I had to find a new home, and I still believed I could do a job in the NRL. I just needed, I guess, the right guidance
yeah,
and be around the good crew. So found my way back at Manly, man, under Baz, and did the full circle. But then by that stage, mate, my body was starting to really deteriorate, um, it forced me to finish up at the end of the day, which was a bit disappointing. But especially when you got a knee injury, you can get away with other ones because you're not constantly running on it every day. But mate, I did my knee when I was 18, so to get 11 years in the NRL out of it, then I'll take that.
Yeah. What was the whole process with medically retiring? What did a doctor just say to you? Pretty much you're done, or was it like you can keep going, but this is how it's going to go, or was it completely
Um,
your choice?
oh look, man, I had to. I physically couldn't go, so you just have a conversation with the club, and then you got to go through a little bit of a process. But it was basically, I had a conversation with the club, and then you've got to come up with a decision. And I just couldn't. I was basically retiring because medically because of the injuries. So it's out of my control, which I guess made the decision a lot easier. But mate, I was 31, and like I said, I had a good stint. I would have liked to continue to go for a few more years as I had planned to go. For a couple of years, I was going to have a stint overseas and just experience over there, but had a contract in place ready to go, but had to obviously cam that and finish up.
Yeah. So you retired in 2019. Did after you retired, did you feel a bit lost for a bit or anything? Because obviously that's been your whole life since you were young.
Mm.
What was that experience like?
Mate, to be honest with you, it was a relief at the beginning because, oh, I had obviously injuries throughout my career, and I got to a stage even early in my career, mate, and during Origin, during grand finals in 14 and everything, I was going into games thinking about my body and not being out, not just thinking about footy. So it takes its toll on you. And I found out my ACL had failed in a couple of years after I'd done my ACL. So I basically played my entire career without one. And to be able to play in Origin, play in grand finals, play some decent footy without an ACL, it's pretty pretty weird. But when to think about it. But mate, so it was a bit of a relief. I rested the body. I got to spend time with my family, and then I just, like I said, mate, the plan was to get back on the tools, finish my trade, which I was very keen to do. I'd almost finished it off, so I only had a little bit to go. It would have been a waste if I just let it go. So I've got that in the back pocket now. But my plan was to eventually get back involved in footy, which I'm doing now, and um, yeah, it was definitely. I was pretty lucky because I had a trade to fall back on. But like I said, footy is where I want to be and what I want to be involved in. But I can definitely see how it's a tricky transition. Don't get me wrong, I've had my ups and I've had my downs since finishing because you go from playing rugby league every weekend, you get this this pinnacle of what you want to do, and then it gets taken from you. But mate, I can't complain. I had a decent career, and um, yeah, I wouldn't change it.
Do you ever see yourself doing like being a coach or maybe have you done any stuff with the halves around the game or anything yet?
Mate, yeah, I'm pretty keen to go down the coaching route, but I just bide my time and continue to learn off coaches around me and people around me, mate. Like I said, I'm just helping the region up there, working for the Dolphins, coach education. So I'm helping the coaches around there, helping the kids, um, helping the schools and the junior reps. So the school footy's massive up there. The junior reps is going good, and then I'm just helping out the Capras in the Host Plus Cup as well. So as well as doing some NRL work, mate, it keeps me busy and it's happy. But I'd like to dive into the coaching scene. Um, Gradually over time and see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, it's been great having you on, Trent. Really, really great to pick your brain here, all the behind the scenes of all your career. A lot of stuff I didn't know about, and then I'm sure the listeners don't know either. Um, yeah, thanks for coming on. Good luck with all the coaching or what you're up to now. And also, I got one last question. Who do you think's winning the comp this
Yep.
year?
I think it's going to be a question, an answer that a lot of people are saying too. I think it's either going to be, Penrith or Melbourne. But I believe I'd like to see someone new, maybe a dark horse come through, mate. But I'm gonna say Melbourne's going to win the comp this year.
Yeah. My pick was the doggies for the whole year, and they were pretty unlucky
Yep,
to get knocked out last week.
I
A
know.
really good game, but
Yeah,
mate, they'll be back.
it would have been nice, man. It would have
Yeah.
been nice for him to go all the way through, but
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, thanks Trent for jumping on. I'll I think we're good at like 45 minutes. So thanks so much
nah,
for your
that's cool, man.
time.
I
Thanks
appreciate
everyone
you
for
having me.
listening. Thanks so much, Trent.